Welcome everybody for joining this RIKEN EPFL seminar series, RIKEN AIP and EPFL CIS. Today's speaker is Koichi Hashida Sensei, who received his doctoral degree from University of Tokyo in 1986. He was affiliated with the Electrotechnical Laboratory during 86 to 2001. And the Institute for New Generation Computer Technology from 88 to 92, as well as the National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology during 2001 till 2013. He's currently a professor of Graduate School of Information Science and Technology at the University of Tokyo and the leader of the Decentralized Big Data team of RIKEN AIP. His research encompasses linguistics, cognitive science, natural language processing, artificial intelligence, decentralized PDS, and their applications to smart society. And it's a pleasure to have you, Hashida Sensei. Please go ahead and share your slides. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'll share my screen. So, according to the introduction, you can guess my age. I'm old enough to talk about something very non-technical. As the title suggests, it's a personal AI to maximize the value of personal data while defending human rights and democracy. So let me first talk about why we should defend human rights and democracy. We should defend them against CAI and AE. The CAI stands for Central AI, and AE stands for Attention Economy. Where central AI means AI based on centralized management of personal data. And attention economy is the way of running economy in the view of economic value is attributed to human attention or human interest rather than the value of information, the value of goods, and so on and so forth. So these have promoted several different rather bad things. So one is surveillance capitalism, which is surveillance and intervention by CAI, and digital Leninism is autocracy using CAI. And these have promoted false and biased information like a fake news, echo chamber, and filter bubble. These have been around for well, decades. Before AI was born. So this is a very complex situation, and CAI and attention economy has combined to be creating very bad social and international situation. In particular, they are damaging freedom of thought, conscience, speech, and choice, and also value creation by personal data, because centralized control prevents free usage, free utilization of personal data by confining personal data into separate silos of personal centralized control. Okay, so let me talk about these elements of the problem. First is surveillance capitalism. The term was coined by Zuboff 3 years ago, and it is a kind of economic system where CAIs oversee and intervene in our lives. There are several typical episodes like privacy-threatening advertisements. The Target is the biggest supermarket chain in the US, and they invented an algorithm to infer personal information from purchase data of the customers. And one day, this algorithm inferred a high school girl's pregnancy and the expected date of delivery, and sent coupons of maternity goods like baby bears and so on and so forth. And this was a very annoying situation where this girl didn't, of course, want to disclose her pregnancy situation. right? And another is manipulation of voting behavior. As all of you, many of you know, Cambridge Analytica was supporting the people who won in two events in 2016. One is Brexit referendum, the other is US presidential election. So the Cambridge Analytica was a British company which illegally collected personal data by Facebook's friend API for the sake of micro-targeting in order to manipulate voting behavior of people in UK and US. And digital Leninism it was coined by Sebastian Heilmann, also in 2016, which is autocracy using CAI, typically by China. So I think you know credit score in China. Jima Xinyong, Sesame Credit is famous, but it's run by private company Alibaba, and you means citizens in China can escape this system because it's a private service. But the government-run national social credit system is impossible for the people there to escape because it is run by the government, which deprives your freedom to think about and do anything, many things. So for instance, you banned air travels and long distance train travel if you had a bad score in terms of this social credit system, and also you would be exposed in street vision if you violated some traffic rules and so on. Another thing is oppression of ethnic minorities. So central AI has been used in order to sort out some kind of people like Uyghur people, to oppress these ethnic minorities in some regions of China. In fact, the ethnic minority population reduced by 10% for 2 years in Xinjiang region, according to National Bureau of Statistics in China in version 2021. And this is a recent, very, very famous example of false and biased information, where the Ukrainian president, who is going to give a talk at the Japanese Diet, he is falsely calling on people to surrender in this deepfake video. So how can we address this problem? The difficulty is we cannot collaborate to restrict CAI. We means that humanity or the international community, because central AIs create winners in the sense that businesses and governments, countries can gain huge profits and power using CAIs, like GAFA or China and maybe other countries. This is quite different from full-scale nuclear wars or global warming, because there is no winners in full-scale nuclear war. But in the case of CAIs, CAI would create winners, unlike full-scale nuclear war. So it's impossible for us to collaborate to restrict CAIs. The only way to escape, the only possible way to contain CAIs, therefore, is to let both public services and private services use other technologies than CAI in order to gain more profit for the sake of larger profits. So if there is some more profitable technology, then those services would move from CAI to that new technology. So what is that? Is a question we pursue here. And another thing is we would need additional measures in order for each of us to avoid fakes and biases, biased information, because these have been around longer than AI. So we must have another additional measures to battle these. Okay, so we should address these two things. And I suppose one measure to against CAI is personal AI. The personal AIs would replace CAI, as I'll talk about later. And also, in order to maintain authenticity and diversity of information, which is to avoid falsehood and biased information, we would be able to use graph documents, as I will talk about later. And these would be based upon some common technology for decentralized management of personal data to maximize the added value of personal data. So let me talk about personal AI first. The basic technology, the fundamental technology for decentralized management of personal data, which maximizes the value of personal data. First, let us assume that personal data is aggregated to data subject, which maximizes the utility of personal data like this. So personal data is currently controlled by many companies or government agencies and so on. And if these pieces of personal data are aggregated to the data subject herself, then the value of data would be improved because they are aggregated. And here, there is no need for common ID across different data controllers, because if each of these data controllers can identify the data subject, then each of them can provide the data, person data, to the data subject herself. And the result is the aggregation of different pieces of data. There is no need for common ID across these data controllers. And this, of course, improves the value of data without violating human rights, because the aggregator is not anybody else than data subject herself. So that's data aggregation, person data aggregation, which maximizes the utility, and the aggregated data can be used for the sake of the data subject herself. That's primary use, and the secondary use is also possible by the will of the data subject themselves. So this data aggregation, personal data aggregation to data subject, makes it easier for the data to be used for the sake of primary use and the secondary use, both of them. That's the first part of the story. The second part of the story is that no centralized management by others, which maximizes the security of the data, because which would induce no massive abuse of personal data. And this story applies to most kind of data, but some kind of usages require centralized management, like taxation, public security, public health, and so on. So some of these public purposes would require centralized management, but most of the case, decentralized management maximizes the value of personal data. All right. And we have been developing PLR, which is a personalized repository, which makes it possible for each of us to manage and utilize our own data. But I won't talk about the detail of this technology, but just mention some use cases. The first use case is for the sake of education. Extracurricular activity data can be generated and maintained and controlled and utilized by this technology. And in this use case, which is already in real operation in Saitama Prefecture, Japan, since fall 2 years ago. And in this use case, each student, prefectural high school student in Saitama Prefecture, enters his or her data in a PLR application like this. and share the data with teachers for the teacher to compose school recommendations for the sake of the students' entrance to universities and the employment and so on. So the data is basically managed by the data subject students, and each can be shared with the teacher for the sake of the students themselves. This is the first use case. And second use case also education related to a computer-based testing. The experiment will be run in this fall. And in this use case, teachers register problems of examination, and learners answer those problems using the CBT system, computer-based testing system run by Japanese Ministry of Education via PLR application. So MECBIT is the name of this CBT system. Since this system doesn't have any user authentication functionality, you must use some other user interface, or and we are going to use PLR application for the sake of that user interface for this MECBIT system. And the teacher registers problems using PLR in MECBIT, and the learners can extract the problem to solve to answer these questions, and the answer data can be stored in the learner's PLR, which can be shared with the teacher, and so on. And another use case is digitalizing administrative services, which is going to the experiment will be run in this June in Arao City in Kyushu Island in Japan. And there are several pains for the citizens living there, or in many cities in Japan. So the citizens don't know services provided by the city office, and it's also cumbersome for the citizens to come up with write up application forms and submit them to the city office and so on and so forth. So the first experiment concerns documents, including questionnaires and so on and so forth, for the sake of infant medical checkup, which would make it possible for the citizens to operate the electronic mother-child notebook, and this system would be possibly nationally rolled out, because that's the same kind of data format is used nationwide. So in this use case, each of the citizens write up well, not just application form, but questionnaires in infant medical checkup, and submit the form, submit the document electronically online to the city office, and the city office can handle infant medical checkup more efficiently than ever. And the data of these documents can be controlled, managed by the citizens themselves for the sake of running electronic mother-child notebook and so on. And in the future, we are going to run another, use another technology for matching between personal data and services provided by city office, which is the main functionality of personal AI. So a personal AI is, as it is personal AI, which is to optimize your life. So personal AI is dedicated exclusively to you, each of us. And it also exclusively utilizes all your personal data in place of you. And also this is a decentralized management of PD, personal data, because there's nobody else to manage or control your personal data. It's you or your personal AI. It's only your personal AI who controls your personal data totally. And using all your personal data, your personal AI intervenes in your actions more deeply and carefully than other technologies, typically centralized AI. And of course, the possibility, the potential of personal AI to optimize your life accompanies the risk of it, damaging your life as well. So we need some governance, very strict governance, to promote values while preventing damages and excessive paternalism by personal AI. So it's a problem to solve. But personal AI has very huge potential of values to us. And decentralized matching is the main function of personal AI. It's a selection of relevant information without disclosing your personal data, which is similar to Google's privacy sandbox. So in decentralized matching, the sender of advertisement and other piece of information registers those pieces of information in a catalog, and the catalog is downloaded by your personal AI, and your personal AI would select relevant piece of information thereof by matching, decentralized matching with your personal data. So these kind of pieces of information. And here, the receiver doesn't disclose her personal data to anybody else, and the sender doesn't look at your personal data. It's a very safe way to go. And this is a typical use case of decentralized matching for the sake of purchase support. You visit a tailor, and the tailor would be able to measure your body and create some measurement data, which is stored in your PLR. And the catalog maker collects product information from apparel maker, which contains measurement data of ready-to-wear clothes and so on and so forth. And the catalog is downloaded by your personal AI, which exercises matching with your personal data locally here without disclosing your personal data to anybody else. And the matched clothes, if you like them, can be bought from apparel maker. And if you pay money, the payment would go from you to the mediator, catalog maker, and the mediator would send the payment minus commission to the apparel maker, and the commission would be shared with the tailor because the tailor has contributed to the commission income, the benefit of the mediator. So this motivates the tailor to provide your personal data she created to the data subject herself. So this is a very profitable business, which would account for 50% of GDP, I guess. And this is another use case for living guidance, is assistance to living activities like shopping, dining, exercise, and so on and so forth. So suppose you have bought diaper from Amazon and honey from Alibaba, then your personal AI would infer that there's a baby in your house, and the personal AI will be able to advise you that you should never give honey to the baby because honey may cause very deadly disease to the baby. And similar services provided by Amazon in Japan, which is called Amazon Anshin Mail. But this service is available only when you have bought both honey and diaper from Amazon. Not when you bought a diaper from Amazon and honey from Alibaba. But if you have this personal AI, you would be able to receive this kind of advice from your personal AI when you buy different things from different suppliers. And another example of use case is general behavior support. And in this particular case, that your personal AI is promoting you to or urging you to go through what was it? Okay, medical check, and even when you are not reluctant to do that. But the personal AI would persuade or urge you to do that for the sake of your healthcare and so on. All right, this is a more general picture of added value analysis of personal AI in comparison with central AI. Suppose you are enjoying services from service provider P1 through service provider PN, and they are running central AI from F1 to Fn. But one day, they have decided to use personal AI instead of these centralized AI for the sake of digital customer contact point, in which case this PAI would incorporate the functionality of F1 through Fn, right? And also this PAI would be able to utilize first aggregates the personal data available to P1 through PN and utilize the aggregated data for the sake of services to the data subject individual, right? So, so far, these service providers from P1 to PN have been providing you with services number 1 through number n. So there have been n different kinds of services. But if this architecture is possible, then the personal AI will be able to provide you with much more variety of services, much greater variety of services, up to n+1 square different kinds of services, like this. So because PAI has functionalities from F1 through Fn plus some other AI. Also, it can have access to personal data from D1 to Dn plus some other data. As a whole, it can provide all these kinds of data, like healthcare using measurement data, healthcare using work data, and study guidance service using daily habit data, and so on and so forth. So PAI's added value is much larger than CAI, so this is an example of implementing it. So this illustrates Google's privacy sandbox, but other major browser vendors may have similar service, which is going to be running their own AIs in the browsers, in the devices of the individual users. But using some browser extensions, you can extract the personal data in these browsers, and the PAI would be able to use those pieces of personal data for the sake of much better services. And if that is the case, then since PAI creates much greater value than CAI, much greater value means much greater profits. More services will be using PAI instead of CAI, which spreads decentralized personal data management, which enables many parties to exercise some decentralized governance of personal AI, which means something like this. So if decentralized personal data management has spread to some extent, then research institutes, governments, and NPOs, private firms, etc., will be able to collect directly personal data from data subject individuals and analyze those pieces of data to monitor the behavior of personal AI in order to maximize PAI's added value, and in order for the sake of balance value distribution among individuals, businesses, and societies, which means a balanced co-creation of values. And in addition to this, these parties can not just govern personal data, but also they can check each other's analysis results in order to raise their social trust in a decentralized way. So this is a way to decentralizing the trust or power of the governance of personal AI. So if that is possible, then it will realize value co-creation on people, businesses, and societies, which raises the social acceptance of personal AI, which would promote more services to employ PAI. And this cycle runs, and the result is more and more services would move from central AI to personal AI for the sake of greater profits, not due to any regulation, but for voluntarily, they would move from CAI to PAI. Well, how much time do we have? Not much. So this is how to.
I think you can use the time if you would like.
All right. So this is how to personal AI would displace CAI. And the remaining story is how graph documents can be used for the sake of maintaining authenticity and diversity of information. Graph document means something like this. Well, this is not just example of graph document, but that this content constitutes some part of this presentation. Most people have poor reading comprehension skills. For instance, most high school students' reading skills are worse than AI's. And in fact, only 40% adults in 36 OECD countries can answer simple reading comprehension questions correctly. This means that the linear structure of the text does not match the non-linearity of human thought. Therefore, the document should be in a format easier to handle than text. And also, graphs are easier to understand, easier to create, higher quality, and better improve critical thinking skills than text. So let's use documents in the form of graphs instead of text, like this. Okay, and we have been developing a tool to handle this graph document, this kind of graph document. Semantic editor is a collaborative editing tool to do this. This is a user interface, semantic editor. And the data, graph document data is shared by PLR, the decentralized personal data store, as I described before in the first half of this talk. So this allows this allows a virtually zero cost operation for billions of users using PLR. So it's possible even for us, I mean, even for researchers at National Institute to provide services to people worldwide, billions of people, right? And also this guarantees security and privacy, which is a basis of document composition and the document sharing and so on. And the visual semantic structures assist contemplation in two ways, at least. One is verification of information content, which would prevent fakes. And also it allows access to diverse information to prevent biases. So in this graph document, if this is a claim and this is a counter argument against the claim, it would be easy for you to recognize that these are basis of the claim, and also these are examples of this basis of the claim, and these are grounds of this counter argument, and so on, so forth. So this kind of representation would allow you to access the diversity of different or conflicting claims, and it would be easy for you to identify the grounds and the counter arguments and the examples and so on, right? And this must be based upon some very firm scientific reason why graph documents are feasible in the real society. And in fact, it is. Graphs are more productive than text in several different meanings, in different senses. One is graphs are easier to compose and edit, and graphs are easier to comprehend, and graphs are better in quality, and graphs improve critical thinking ability. And let me mention, these points in terms of some experiments. One is an experiment more than 20 years ago. Graphs are more productive than text in single-person authoring. The experiments were run by some Wakayama University group in 1998. They have set up two groups. One is experimental group, the other is control group. And the people in experimental group composed a graph and then a text based on the graph. And the control group people just composed the text. And the result was the experimental group people composed much better text in terms of two aspects. One is their documents contained more points relevant to the given theme, and their documents contain longer inference chains. So according to these objective and quantitative indices, graphs are much better than text. In terms of single-person authoring, but we have recently run two experiments about the authoring by groups of people. And let me just summarize the result. This is a synchronous co-authoring where two people are talking to each other face to face and using their PCs to edit, co-edit, co-compose shared document. And we compared their performances when they are composing text and when they are composing graphs. And the result is this: in terms of several different indices, like a number of points and inference length and the degree of expansion and the degree of conversion, in most of these indices, graphs were better than text. But this conversion viewpoint, this was not statistically very significant, with p-values 0.35. And second experiment was about asynchronous co-authoring, where in each of two member group, the first member composed half of the document, and then afterwards the second member finished the document without talking to each other. They just shared the document without any other information sharing. And so this is a asynchronous co-authoring. The result is similar in all these different indices. Graphs were much better than text. So in these viewpoints, in these evaluation, graphs are much more productive than text in not only single author authoring, but also co-authoring in both synchronous and asynchronous settings. Okay, let me summarize my talk. I have mentioned the problem of CAI and attention economy, and I have proposed to dissolve the problem by personal AI and graph document, and these technologies would be grounded on the fundamental technologies for the sake of decentralized personal data management, including these features like privacy and security, scalability to support billions of users, and data coordination plus service coordination, and decentralized matching functionality. Thank you very much. I welcome your questions and comments.
Thank you, Hashida-sensei. Questions from the audience? I mean, you have put together great points, and there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Like really, from this, this Cambridge Analytics to some of the personalizations, the privacy issues. I also like the fact that not many people know that this honey example, not giving it to kids, it's really nice tidbits. So how do you see things moving forward? Do you think that
Yeah.
somehow we should have regulation that is strict in society, or I don't know. There was also this New York Times article that says that these some of these trackers that track you, that know precisely where you are, just from getting pings from your cell phone or something like this.
So regulations are useful, at least, but they are not enough. So for instance, if you consider GDPR, the GDPR has put in force how many years ago? 4 years ago, about 4 years ago. And they have the regulation has this article about data portability, for instance. But data portability doesn't seem to have been working quite well. Personal data hasn't been so well circulating in the society and utilized quite better than before. This is because companies, businesses don't gain much profit by supporting data portability. They must have some. They must have business model.
Oh yeah, incentives.
Profit from data portability. But so in a sense, that I have proposed that business model, that is to move from central AI to personal AI, which should be more profitable to private companies, businesses, right? And it's of course very difficult to persuade business people. It's a simple fact, very simple logic, but private companies tend to aim at winners take all kind of victory rather than striving with each other and so on. But collaboration is more productive in general. So if competitors can collaborate to some extent at least, well, of course, without violating trust regulation, but if they can collaborate much more than present, then their profit would be much larger. Of course, the diverse, in order to, for the sake of diversity, diversity necessarily creates some competition. So there must be some competition, but we must maximize collaboration, right? So this is how collaboration is maximized. But it's quite difficult for business people to create competition first or enclosure first view of the business. So it may take time. So if you consider Amazon was established more than, it started more than 25 years ago. And it took, quarter century for them to prosper like this. So it may take another quarter century to spread a decentralized economic system like this. But it should be possible.
So Hashida Sensei, there are 2 questions on the Q&A. Would you like to read them
okay.
and go over them?
All right. So the first question is how to educate the population about. Okay, that's the issue exactly. They might be less interested in the technology, and to them there might be no difference in filling in a form that is stored in a device or in a company's service. Okay. They means ordinary people, consumer, right? But it is not lay people, end user consumers, but business people for us to persuade. So the first kind of people we must persuade is business people, because it's businesses to primarily benefit from this new system. Not, of course, consumers would gain a great benefit, but they won't care. They won't understand the underlying system. They won't understand the underlying new system of capitalism. More educated, more people with better literacy would be those people involved in business, and we should persuade them first, rather than lay people. So that's the answer to the first question. The second question: does personal AI need a huge amount of training data using AI? And what are the challenges in personal AI from technical point of view? Well, machine learning would require some huge server, of course, but in order to run the model, you must maybe need your smartphone most of the case, because neural network models will be as large as, well, less than 100 megabytes most of the case. Of course, there may be very huge neural network model, which may be running in some server. But if you apply some technology to for the sake of privacy protection, then your personal data won't go away from this analysis or the computation in this model. So there's a way to protect your privacy, even if the model is run by some cloud server or some other than your personal device. So in that sense, there's not much technical issue for us to employ personal AI, but there will be more social or business related issue to establish the business model where this business for hosting your personal AI is profitable and so on. Does that answer that question? I hope.
Okay, so if there are no other questions from the audience, this is a perfect time to end. Thank you, Hashida Sensei, for this great talk.
Okay, that's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
This concludes today's seminar. Have a great evening in Japan and a great day in Lausanne. Bye.
Thank you very much.